All right, quick video. So this is my 2019 Yamaha Wolverine X2. This thing is probably, I think it's 2 weeks old right now. Dirty as hell, obviously, already, but I wanted to go through the winch install. So if you guys have ever installed a winch before, the winch mounting, that's actually fairly simple. It's the wiring that's a pain in the ass. When I got into this thing, I realized it was a bit more of a pain in the ass than I had originally anticipated. And so that's why I wanted to do a quick video on this. I actually called my buddy who sold this to me. He's a Yamaha dealer. And I said, man, you guys should tell Yamaha that Polaris does it way better. And he said the Yamaha OE, the worn version of winch. So I installed a KFI Stealth on this thing. He said the Yamaha OE worn is actually plug and play. Well, I watched a video and it's far from freaking plug and play, but it does have a couple harnesses on it anyway. By comparison, this is my wife's Polaris Ace. If you look at this thing, that's plug and play right there. Those are studs. That's winch mounting. Basically all the wiring coming from the battery goes to the front of the unit and it runs right down to the winch right there. So anyway, the solenoid, so the Yamaha instructions, or the KFI, I think they're actually the Yamaha instructions, say to mount the solenoid for this thing up in the passenger side wheel well right here. I wasn't a big fan of that. So what you got to do in order to put this thing together is, first and foremost, for the wiring, the remote actually goes in the glove box, which is pretty sweet. You can't barely see that, but anyway, right in here there is the remote right there, and the plug for the remote actually goes through. Nothing particularly complicated there, but in order to get to the back of that, you got to pull this dash panel. And so the solenoid, the solenoid is actually mounted right there. I mounted it right there. I had to drill into there's a cross member right here that I actually drilled into, and I put a couple of sheet metal screws in it, and I put some double stick tape on the back of it to make sure that it stays in place. They're not particularly heavy, if you guys know what you're looking at, if you've ever done this before. It doesn't take much to keep them in place. Not to mention it's going to be behind this, which actually goes behind the hood. So as far as routing goes, I ended up taking the cables right here and routed them up. So there's the winch. The cables are going up. They're going up and over the suspension tower. You can barely see, but they're routed like right up through here. And then they run right up back. You can actually see them popping out back there. So, and that's going up to the solenoid right there. All right, so here is all the wiring. The majority of this wiring is coming directly from the winch. They give you a ton of wiring for winch to solenoid. The cables that are going from the solenoid to the battery are right here. So I've got them routed out through this cowl and down. I actually don't have them hooked up yet, but I'll have them hooked up in a minute. I think with the KFI connectors that they give you are not big enough to fit on these freaking studs. I'm gonna have to replace them, unfortunately. That's gonna suck. Oh well. Speaking of other connectors, the 12-volt positive line that's switched to your key, it's just this freaking random really long red wire that they give you. Obviously it needs to go into a switched connection. Right here, it looks like, I just tested this, they actually give you one. It's probably for the winch, hell, I don't know. Of course I don't have a freaking bullet connector, so therefore I got a wire tap right there, as you can see. I know it sucks, but oh well. You gotta do what you gotta do for now. It's gonna be fairly well protected, so I'm not too worried about it anyway. So other than that, let's see, you got a few excess. These are coming off of the remote plug line. It gives you a couple extra bullet connectors, and those actually hook up into this deal, which is the switch. Now this switch is for a four-wheeler, so to mount onto the handlebars of a four-wheeler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to take this. I don't have the actual dash mount winch that goes into these pop outs down here. So there's pop outs right there where the winch switch would go. So you can actually have two switches, one in the dash and then the remote switch. I'm basically just going to take this wiring. I'm going to run it down there right behind there. So when I do get it, I can just pop one of those things out. The wires will be right there and I can actually just wire it in. So, yeah. All right, so here's the final wiring. You can see the solenoid's all wired up. The bundle of wires, of additional wiring, is back there behind the cowl, back in here. The wiring to the battery, you can see it's going out from the solenoid to the back of the cowl, to the front of the cowl, hooked up. I've got new battery leads on there because the ones that came with the winch unfortunately didn't fit. As far as switched wiring, you can see this red wire right here. The initial is wiretapped into this particular harness right here, as I mentioned previously. You can see it splits here, it's tapped again. One is going to the remote outlet, one is going to the switch that I've yet to install. The wiring for that switch, you can see it's actually running back here. It's just basically hanging down and back behind the pop outs for those dash switches. So that is, in a nutshell, the final wiring. All right, and there it is, all back together. So as you can see, the cowl went back on. I thought I might have to cut a tab off the back of that cowl because there's some tabs, but it went on without any issue whatsoever. So there's your battery leads coming out, winch is on, remote's in my hands. So works damn good. Thanks.